I'm going to start a video series on who the Hebrews truly are. There's a lot of posers out there pretending to be the Hebrew Israelites, and they have no idea what they're talking about. It's going to be a multi-part series, and we'll start on this part one with who the Edomites are. And it's important because we all agree on who the Edomites are, what they look like. Right? That's what we agree on, what they look like. These posers have no idea who they are now or who they were at the time of Christ. And that's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at how we know what Esau looks like. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Now here's where this is how we understand that Esau, what he looks like. He came out red all over because he's Anglo, and as a baby he was in there struggling with his brother who had a hold of his leg, trying to hold him back so he could be born first and get the blessings. And during that fight he came out red. Only an Anglo can have this red happen to the skin to where when you touch them, it shows handprints, fingerprints. You've all seen it, what that looks like. And it goes even deeper than that, and we're going to look at it in the tools here. So in Hebrew, it was Admoni. They translated it to red. And the meaning of Admoni in the Hebrew language is reddish, of the hair or complexion. So when it says hairy, it's obviously talking about his hair too. He's red-headed, and only redheads, all redheads are Anglo. You cannot be an African redhead unless you're not a pure African. It's impossible. It's an impossibility. Redheads are pure Anglo. End of it. Has nothing to do with red cows. And this root word here proves it without a doubt that he's Anglo. There's no confusion. Adam is from the root word Adam, the first son of God, the only son of God, created by God's own hands. The Adamic race is Esau, is from the Adamic race. To show blood in the face, flush or turn rosy, be dyed, made red, ruddy.
I want to give all the praises and the honor to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Recha HaKwadash, and double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone. Honors as well to the other elders, you brethren, you fellow believers of this truth. Shalom to you few sisters. Shalom to the elect. So anyway, I've been going back and forth with this guy. He called himself Anglo-Hebrew. He might be an Anglo-Hebrew, but he damn sure isn't a Hebrew Israelite. It's a difference. And who is the original Anglos? But anyway, I'm not even going to go into that. Right now, we're going to read a couple of his comments. He says, I'm not reading all this. No way. Peter says the Greeks and Europeans are God's chosen. Well, Greeks are not just white people. And then he talks about purple people or whatever, which we're not purple. We come in all different shades of color. In fact, the Israelites are going to look like all nations. As Deuteronomy 28:64 says, the Israelites will be scattered amongst all nations, kindreds, peoples, and tongues, as Revelation 7:9 says, right? So we're going to look like all different nations. From one end of the earth even into the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, meaning you will lay with other nations. But anyway, Peter says the Greeks and Europeans are God's chosen people. I thought he said the Jews were. No, just because you live in just because you follow Greek custom don't make you an actual Greek. In fact, Greeks was a multitude of nations. In fact, Europeans had other different ancestries also until they came on the scene. We were there as black people. Don't believe me? Let's go to let's go to some Russian icon. You will see, let me get some images. Yep. Who is that? Is that red people? Is that red people? We're going to get into that thing red too as well. I'm not going to go into the definition. As you know, he went into the definition and said shows the blood and this and that, but we're going to show you the contradiction and why that is definitely a false interpretation, right? So let's go here, and I want him to prove other interpretations that I'm about to bring out and see if that's what it is. Let's go back. I'm not going to read all of this, but the Adamic Europeans come from Adam to show blood through the face. Let's look up the word Adam, and let's go into the online etymology, right? Proper name, biblical name of the first man, progenitor of the human race. From Hebrew, Adam, a man, literally the one formed from the ground. Hebrew, Adama, ground. Latin, humanus, human, earth, ground, soil. Yeah. Now, when you do get down in the earth, you can get different shades of brown, different, almost even reddish, because we're reddish too. In fact, when I was young, I was reddish. If you take your finger and push it on my chest, it's going to turn red. So I don't know where they get this idea that black people can't be red too. But this red that we're talking about here, Ashashwa, right? This red, Ashash, right, means to waste it away and fail, right? Waste away his skin. We're going to also go into some AI too and prove that as well. Genesis 25:25. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. Like a hairy garment. He wasn't hairy. It was like a hairy garment. It's another video. I'm not even going to touch on it for the sake of getting through this. You had scriptures that talk about how they compared certain things to certain things, like even the Messiah in Revelation 1, when he was compared to fine brass, which fine brass is dark. I don't know who made it gold, but fine brass is dark as it burned in the furnace. When you go in the Bible, older Bibles, especially the 1300s, it says his feet was like unto lantern, and I pulled the pictures of that, as if in a burned chimney, burned past tense, chimney, burned chimney. But you know, the scholars will take that and translate it and say a burning chimney. They can't stand the fact that we're the true biblical Israelites, man. And it first came out red all over like a hairy garment. So let's go into that. See if I have that up. The first came out red all over like a hairy garment. Let me see here. Let me go here. This is what I brought up, what he brought up. Adam to be red, ruddy, ruby red, dyed red. See, they saw that word. The word originally was ruddy, right? Which technically meant healthy. We'll get in that too. And then later on, it changed to actual bloody, ruddy and bloody. And it just associated with bright red. There was no distinction between the colors of hue, right? That's why you get hue man, colored man. Isn't that what they call this? All right. Let's go back to Genesis 25:25. For the sake of making it quick, I'll go into lexicon. Genesis 25:25. Red, ruddy. They didn't have to put ruddy there, but they did. How did they associate red with ruddy? No, right? Because if that's the case, let's go to 1 Samuel 17:42. And when the Philistines looked about and saw David, he disdained in him, for he was but a youth and ruddy, or rody, and of fair countenance. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Let's go to some AI. It's interesting what I asked AI. Why did the some Bibles as ISV say that David was dark and healthy? Because yeah, it does say that. Let me go back. Let me go back just to show you. The ISV was the ISV. It's a couple versions that say that. That says David, but most of these say he was. Well, that's not even the right translation. I mean the right scripture. Let's go to 1 Samuel. Let's go to 1 Samuel and 17 and 42. It says David, because they despised David because he was just a boy, ruddy and handsome. It says up here in NIV, it said he was glowing with health and handsome. That's pretty much what ruddy means, right? You had dark and handsome, as you heard. You had ruddy and handsome, right? Which you could still be dark. Even myself, I'm looking at myself right now. I have a reddish tint. I have a reddish tint. There's nothing wrong with having a reddish tint. It is something. This is why I didn't say he was but a youth in red of fair countenance. How the hell is that a fair countenance? But anyway, let's go on, because I tricked AI. I asked him the same question, and I said, well, why did it say this? Let me get to it. See right here in God's Word translation, it said it was a healthy complexion and good looks. So you telling me a skin that blood shows through the skin and the mosquitoes, and not that our people don't look white too and don't look like they have melanin. I'm not saying that, but that's still a curse. That's still a curse. Why do you think they call themselves Caucasians and went up into the mountains to the altitude to get away, as I was reading, to get away with certain insects? You know what I'm saying? Certain animals, insects. There's certain insects and animals that live up high. They had to get that high altitude, right? Job 30:5 tell you that they was driven forth from amongst men. They were base men, right? Young and healthy. Here's the ISV. It says David had a dark, healthy complexion and handsome. And I asked AI, well, why did it say dark and healthy? Then it tried to associate dark red or something like that. I couldn't believe that. Or they had dark tint from the sun. Get the hell out of here. You see how they made that up? But watch what happened. It says, based on the results, I can see the different translations. Ruddy, meaning having reddish complexion. Let me go on down. So I said, how is red considered a healthy complexion without no melanin? This is what it says. You raised an excellent point about the apparent contradiction. Yeah. The key is understanding what Ruddy actually described in the ancient text versus modern assumptions about skin color. Right? It is described the flush of blood circulation visible through the skin, the pinkish of the red glow that appears from the blood that flows well near the surface. This was visible regardless the baseline skin tone. Even people with melanin show increased redness when blood circulation is good. It indicates cardiovascular health, vitality, not necessarily pale skin. Yeah. See, white supremacists had took that and they ran with it. Right? But see, the Lord sent us AI. Now, you got to be in the spirit to understand that, though. So there was a difference. This is why Genesis 25:25 didn't say he was ruddy. The first came out ruddy like a hairy garment. It said red because of Ashash, right? Hashash wa, he is wasted, right? He's failed. And then you can go into the precepts. They're talking about how I believe Isaac's eyes have failed. It goes back to failing, wasting. Somebody who throws their life away is wasting away. There's different terminologies for that. Somebody who's paralyzed and can't use their legs, they get small because they're wasting away. So that's your definition of ruddy. But there's more. Let's see if this is true. Job 30:30, my skin is black upon me and my bones are burnt with heat. I haven't seen any red person, any so-called white Caucasian person turn black because their bones burnt with heat. I mean, where they set on fire and turned to charcoal and looked at themselves while they were still in ashes and say, hey, my bones are burnt with heat. You haven't seen that either. Right, this is talking about, see, it was no really mention to talk about skin tone. The only reason why skin tone was mentioned, such as the Messiah and Job in this situation, these are two different scenarios. Job, this was, in this situation, is talking about going through a tribulation. When people go through famine and they get sick, they get darker, right? But you don't see white people do that. Now, the Messiah, when he was described, it was because he had a beautiful complexion, just as David had a beautiful complexion. It makes sense that David and Solomon, right, connects with the Messiah, right? Because David had a beautiful complexion, so did Solomon. He had to have, right? Well, he said that, Song of Solomon 1:5, I am black and comely. But there's more. Let's go to the real deal. Exodus 6:25. And Eleazar, Aaron's son, took him one of the daughters of Putiel to wife, and she bare him Phinehas. These are the heads of the fathers of the Levites according to the flesh. So we go down, and this is Mr. Anglo-Hebrew. I'd like you to answer this. Go deep dive, go into your studies. I honestly would like an honest answer about this. Phinehas. Let's see what it means. Mouth of brass. I actually took the time some years back and looked up what the mouth of brass is, but ultimately found it in the bottom anyway. Mouth of brass, 863:10. Mouth of the serpent of the three Israelites, one of Eli's sons, right? But this is the grandson of Aaron, right? Egyptian. Phinehas, the Negro, according to Louth. I don't know what that means. The Negro. So what I did, I took the time to go into, let's just read right out of here, and then I'm going to go into another Hebrew dictionary, and then I'll end the lesson. It says the Hebrew name Phinehas has a debated meaning, with some suggesting it translated to Nubian. I wonder who debating this meaning. Nubian or dark-skinned one from Egyptian roots, while others propose mouth of brass of oracle from Hebrew. They would try their best. The name is born significant figures of the Hebrew Bible. The grandson of Aaron, known of his zeal, stopping the plague. The son of Eli, known for his wickedness. So what I did is I went into, this is Abiram Publications. It says bronze colored one, right? Mouth of brass, bronze colored one. Let me go over here real quick. Mouth of brass, yellow Malibu alloy metal. Then it says harder than copper. Brass, bronze originally, any alloy copper, right? When you look at Boaz, it also means the pillars, bronze pillars, right? When you look that up, or something like that, brass or bronze pillars, right? So usually bronze, later to modern, used the alloy, roughly 2 parts of copper, 1 part zinc. Okay, that's to the point. And remember, the Messiah feet was like unto fine brass, not yellow. I mean, what you trying to say? He Asian now? Anyway, the bronze colored one. Bronze colored. What does colored mean? Didn't they call us colored when they took us into slavery? See, we fit those curses. You, Mr. Fake Anglo-Saxon, you don't fit the curses, right? You are not of the chosen seed of the Lord. We are under the curses. Anyway, mouth of brass, bronze, snake oracle. They try to throw different definitions in, but it says from the Egyptian Phinehas, right? It goes on to say, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, Phinehas, famous for staying the plague caused by the Israel's sins with Baal Peor. That's when the man laid with the woman, and he put the javelin through him, not because he laid with a heathen woman, but because they were sinning and falling under their gods. Same thing with Solomon. They say, well, you can't have more than one wife because of that. And Solomon, his wives turned away his heart because he messed with those heathens. And even our own women will turn away your heart. And hell, it only takes one woman to do that. But back to this video. Just as God tells Moses to execute all the leaders of Israel, the peoples rise in agony and weeping to the Simeonites. I'm going down. The etymology of this word Phinehas, the Egyptology, etymology, and original meaning for the name Phinehas, they claim is not immediately clear, but theological dictionaries suggest that it's crazy how they make sure everything else is clear, like Ruddy, right? They don't say, well, I don't know if it's technically clear. That's what it says. And I can go into the various Oxford dictionaries and they'll tell you the same thing. Anyway, let me go back here. It says, theological dictionary suggests that it is a transliteration of Egyptian name Pinaski, meaning the Negro, or more specifically, the bronze colored one, which that's why I looked up bronze, right? I also looked up another definition, Bible, King James Bible Dictionary. It used to be in the Oxford, but they don't have it in there no more. I guess they didn't took it out of Oxford, something like that. Anyway, it says, let's look up the definition. This is kind of like a blue letter. Phinehas 863. It says Pinaski, something like that. Pinakos means mouth of brass, and of course we looked up and saw what mouth of brass meant. In fact, let's just look up and see the meaning of mouth of brass. Let's see if it just pulls up. Let's see what it says. I mean, it might have different interpretations. Mouth of brass, someone who is bold and brazen, perhaps even arrogant. Let me say mouth of brass meaning in the Bible. Let's see what it says. Shameless in speech, associated. Doesn't say much. Let me go here. The Phase Finder. This person says the mouth of brass from Old Egypt. They got it from the Eastern 1897 Bible Dictionary. Old Egypt, Eleazar the priest, and it goes on down. Let's see what it says. What he says it says. Phinehas, the mouth of brass. What exactly does it mean? Mouth of brass. Oh, right here. Mouth of brass from Old Egypt, the Negro. There you go. That's all I have on that. Shalom.